Hi, welcome to the show today. I'm kind of excited that Miss Claudia is here with me, and we get a chance to chit chat because what I think is it's an important issue in people's lives, and they continue to not do it. I mean, you see it on a daily basis. Of course, we're talking about making arrangements for your after part, you know, and when time passing away and things like that, and getting those things arranged, pre-planning is we're talking about it. And I'm still in the process of pre-planning my own now because I faced it with my wife, and I'm telling you, it is tough. I should have realized it when I had the same circumstance with my dad. You still don't learn, and it's something that's very important for people to realize what a burden that puts on the families. I mean, and
financially and emotionally, that's there anyway, the emotional part.
Right.
The initial part of it, and then you face the financial.
Yeah, and the nightmares that come with it. Let's before we get into pre-planning, I got to say, what a great place you guys have. I got to talk about Silverbrook just a little bit.
I'm very proud of it. It's a beautiful place. It's very old. It's over 100 years old. It was founded in 1895 by the White family, who still own it to this day.
And that's the nice thing about it. It is still family operated, and now you got third generation in there that's operating it.
And everything that we have there is all original stuff. Everything, the books, our archived books, our cards, everything's original things.
What amazed me was when I was at your office one day sitting there, and a gentleman walked in out of the blue, and he said, "Yeah, I'm out of town. I'm from Virginia or wherever he's from." He said, "I had a distant relative that we know that was buried here, and I wanted to just visit it while I was coming through town here." And of course, they died like 200 years ago, or whatever it was. But you were able to go back and not on computers, because there's a lot of this is archived, from way back when. But within no time, you were able to tell that guy, "Well, yeah, your ancestors buried right over here."
There's different ways you can cross-reference with the information that we have, and we can find the very first grave. I mean, we still have all of that information there, and we do a lot of genealogy. That's part of what we do as well. We have people coming in looking for their ancestors, and they're doing family tree things. So, that's fun part of it too, because it's fun for us. We actually go back and find things from the 1800s, and we're able to help
people
families
that amaze you, that are laying there with you right now, that are out there, that chose Silverbrook, and a good reason to choose Silverbrook. I look at that, and like you said, it's 100 years old. It's got that maturity about it. The trees are absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And the nice thing is, you can go to different cemeteries and take a look around. I mean, a lot of them today are going with that park style, no headstones. You can put flat markers. So there's different things. So I tell people, when it comes to that, because I look back and I'm grateful for my wife's beside her father. But if I really wanted to pick a cemetery, I don't think I would have picked that cemetery.
You can actually see in Silverbrook, which is one of the reasons why I'm very proud to work there, and I just love the cemetery, because you see how the cemetery has grown. You see where the historic part of the cemetery is, particularly in the front, which is the traditional parts of our cemetery, the oldest parts, where you can see the stones, and the stones in the front, the majority of them, we don't even use that material when we do stones anymore. But you can see them. You can see that all that history is there. But you can see how the cemetery has matured into a little bit more modern things, where you see the granite in different colors and different shapes and different sizes.
And then you go going back, and then you have areas for the above ground. I mean,
we do. We actually have now. The cemetery has the memorial park. When you go into the memorial park, you're not going to see anything standing upright. Everything's going to be flat. Everything's going to be bronze there. Okay. In the more traditional parts of our cemetery, you're going to see uprights. You're going to see flat flush markers. You're going to see slant markers or slant stones. You're going to see columbariums. You're going to see niches. You're going to see private mausoleums.
I know people are at home going, what is all that? And that's what I want to kind of explain, because I didn't realize. I thought, okay, I'm going to go plan. Because when I buried my dad, the nice thing is, being from Texas, I'm like sixth generation out there, so we have family graveyards. Well, they're pretty much, we do what we want. We mark. In fact, you want to claim your lot, you just put it out with rocks. Say, okay, I'm claiming this part. That's where I want to be buried. And but you know, you go to these cemeteries, you know, they're controlled and stuff. It's a whole different world. I didn't realize the choices that you have.
Well, we are non-sectarian, so we bury all faiths. First of all, we have a Muslim section, we have a children and babies section, we have a Greek section, we have the traditional parts of the cemetery, we have the memorial park. There's so much to choose from, and that's why I like to do tours, especially for people who have never been there before, because there's so much space to cover and there's so much choice. Yeah. You know, that, you know, a lot of times they're overwhelmed. They didn't realize that they had this much choice, which brings me back to the point why it's more important to pre-plan, because you have the time to make these decisions.
Yeah, don't put it on your spouse or don't put it on your children. I mean, you know, sit down with them even. I mean, it's a family thing, so you might want to discuss it. It's going to happen, and you know, hopefully later than sooner. Yeah.
Sometime in your life, whether you're a son, a daughter, mother, father, you're going to have to take part in burying somebody. We all are going to have to face that at some point in our lives, maybe more than once.
Right.
And I think, you know, some of the lessons that I know that I've learned personally, you know, in my family, is to actually sit down and talk about these things. Even if you don't get out and actually do anything, is at least educate yourself on what's out there. And you might want to see what cemeteries are out there, what funeral homes are out there, and get that stuff, at least start talking about it, so that everybody's not shocked and surprised.
Yeah,
when the time
and
comes
not
for you
only
to have to
talking about it, because you know it's important to you know, okay, yeah, this is the cemetery we want to use, this is the funeral home that we want to use, blah blah. That's all important, but more important than that is the cost of burial today. I mean, it is staggering, you know, but you guys have no control of the cost of burial. I mean, you guys have property, you sell that piece of that property for that grave, they're going to go in and you charge them to dig the hole. Now, the funeral home's got all this stuff, you know, as far as caskets and you know, so you kind of go in and you're kind of like, you're stuck in a, yeah, that's fine, let's do that, let's do that. Yeah, oh, next thing you know, you're $19,000 for burial. Where if you have, and you did it today, you can do some of that stuff and not cost you as much money as well, because you can shop this. You have things that you can sell them that they don't have to buy from that funeral home.
Right, exactly. We do have now, we offer everything that you would need to place your loved one in the ground, to bury that person. And those things are the lot, the vault, and the opening and closing of that lot.
Let's stop at the vault, because there's another decision in itself. People don't realize.
And it is a state law of Delaware. You have to have
on this, and I don't. Until this day, I'm afraid to ask what vault did I get. You know, because you know.
Oh, there's you know, a vault can go anywhere from $800 up to $1,500 if you want.
Right.
You know,
depending on what you want that vault to do, and it's structured. Some of them are structured, and the whole point of the vault is to keep the ground from sinking.
Absolutely, and you can tell that on our cemetery. As I said, you can see the growth in it. You can see the lots where, you know, back in the day, they didn't have to have vault. They were non-existent at that point.
And they burn a box, you know. So today, the caskets, I mean, let's, you know, when you're talking about, because now caskets can range from starting to imagine somewhere around $1,500. You can buy them online. Of course, I saw that on TV.
And it's into the thousands.
Oh, thousands! I was looking at caskets for $8,000–9,000. You know, which the problem is, at that point, you're so street-driven. I wanted to give my wife everything I possibly could get. I wanted her to have the best of everything, you know, because you know, what are you going to, where if we would have planned that ahead of time, I know we probably would have saved thousands of dollars. I know that. I don't know how many thousands we would have saved, because I think we would have made some other choices.
Well, you get locked in on what the prices are at that time, because our prices change all the time. Every year they do. So when you pre-plan, you get the benefit of locking in on what that price is right now, and you get to make your payments on those things. You know, as I said, like the other day, I sold a vault, and I sold the lot. That person is going to make their payments. All that's done. That's done. So, you know, that person, when it comes time to use that lot, they pay for their opening and closing.
And that's it.
And that's it. And then, you know, afterwards, when you're ready to put a marker or an upright stone on it, then you're free to do that. But at least you have that groundwork
Yeah,
that
yeah.
groundwork done.
And when you're talking about that, it's important for people to understand, you know, the process of how a funeral takes place, or how a deceased one is taken care of. The funeral home has to take the deceased. That you have to assign it to a funeral home. That's the state law, and it has to go through that. But that's all that they have to do is handle the body. I mean, you know, and from there, everything else can be done through other networks without if you pre-plan it. But if you go into the situation where you're walking in, you don't have anything planned. You know, it'll hit you.
Well, yeah, you have two major productions going on. You've got a funeral, which is a production in itself because they present the body, they get the body prepared, they do the vehicles that you're going to need, they do the flowers, they do the service type thing, and then they have the production. We have the production of burying the person. That's a production too, because you know we do the funeral procession when they come into our cemetery. We have to make sure that the grave is prepared properly, that the ground has been dug properly, that the vault has been placed in properly, that we have the canopy, the greens, enough chairs.
Oh, there's nothing
families.
worse than, you know, you think talking about destroying a wedding, but nothing worse than destroying a funeral, you know, by not having something right.
And you have to be good at it.
Right.
You have to be good at it, and I have to say that our guys are good at it because, you know, in the summertime you got 100-degree weather, and you're out there and you've got to do this out. Everything's out in the elements. You're not inside of a church. You're not inside of a funeral. We're outside. Yeah. So you have to be good at what you do, and you have to make it look nice all the time, from beginning to end. And our guys, I have to say, they're good.
I got my hats off to your guys, because not only there, but you know, when it comes to buying the markers and stuff, you know, I was given from the funeral home here. You can go call these people, whatever. The good thing I knew the White family, and I was talking to Paul White, and he says, "Tim, come by and talk to us about the marker." And I did, which I was totally surprised with. But your guys actually brought it out and placed it. And I was there. I asked, hey, "Can I be there?" When they did it, and they of course Paul said,
there's
"Go
a lot
ahead."
that goes on. It may not appear that way. It's not a simple job.
I was amazed, because when they brought this out there, because these things ain't lightweight.
No, they're not. They're several hundred pounds. They're several hundred pounds.
But these guys, the way they handled this and with care, and then when they put it in, the hole, you know, being dug, they had to go get a shovel because the hole wasn't dug.
Right.
You know, because that was done by the cemetery, and here it is. They don't do the foundation, whatever. But it was a little awkward. They was sure that thing was lined up straight. That was very important to me.
So what you see when you come out to a funeral or a burial, there is so much stuff that took place prior to that to make sure that that grave is correct, to make sure that the measurements are correct, to make sure that that grave is going to hold the casket once they place it up there, that we have the chairs, the greens, the canopy. And you have to understand, too, that in the summertime, it could be 100 degrees out there. And in the wintertime, we have snow, we have ice, we have the winds. Last year, we had a tornado. But it still goes on.
Funeral's gonna go on.
And it's going to go on. And so there's a lot that goes on that families don't get to see. They come to see, once they get there, everything has been prepared. But there's a lot of work that goes on there, and the guys do such a good job at what they do.
And you do such a good job. I want to tell people before, you know, because we're going to get back, I want to talk a little bit about markers and some other things, but before we do, with the, you know, because you have to deal with this daily. I see, you know, and you know, to see you, the satisfaction of how, because it's a reward for you at the end of it when you help these people. And I see the hurt in you when those people come in there and they can't dig the hole because there's no money, you know, and you know, and that's very tough on you. I don't know how you keep from reaching in your pocketbook and say, "I got this."
It's
you know,
difficult. It's difficult. And as I said, when I lost my father, you know, we were at the funeral home and everything, and I'm realizing what they left. I'm realizing what they had to go through at the funeral home to make these arrangements and be able to afford to pay for that. You know, some people are, you know, were able to have insurances and stuff in place, but some people don't. You know, and the average families don't have thousands of dollars to just spill out for something. But this is something we have to do. So when they get to me, when it comes to a burial, that burial has to be paid for 100% in full at need. If you have to bury someone right now,
and that's in a cemetery in the state.
It has to be paid for 100%.
Because funeral homes will work with you on, waiting on life insurance policies and stuff like this. Funeral home can't do that.
Right. We accept different types of payment, but the point is that it has to be payment in full.
Right.
I'll take a credit card or a check, but it has to be paid in full. There is no payment plan.
Right.
That's the beauty of pre-planning, because you can do that. You can finance. You can finance it.
And I got to say, that's going to be one of your least expenses. I mean, it's not cheap, so it's a few $1,000s still that you got to, then there again, if you pre-plan it, you can save just on the pre-planning part of it. You're going to save that money, a tremendous amount, and because when you. It's like you're in a situation, you have no choice at this point. This is what it's going to cost you. But now, if you pre-plan on this thing, it ain't going to cost you. Let's talk about stones, because that's one of the things that really I was surprised with, because, of course, I wanted a big, I wanted to build a big statue and everything else. Found out I had to have a flat stone, and then I picked out, because I wanted to be as big as I can, we had to change the size because the cemetery wouldn't match it and everything else. You were wonderful, because you coordinate all that. I didn't have to do any of that. I picked a stone, and you worked with the cemetery.
Well, that's another reason why I like to do a tour of the cemetery, is to allow families to see that in certain areas you can have an upright, in other areas you can. And if you go for the cremation lot or cremation plot, everything has to be flat there too. So that's another reason why I like to do a tour and say, okay, you do have some choices, and that you understand that if you go in this area, you can't have an upright.
Right.
You can't have an upright. And if you want an upright, you either have to have two side-by-side single graves, or you have to have one, but it has to be double depth.
Right.
So there's a whole science to the cemetery with this kind of thing, and as far as sizes of stone, colors of stone, how they're cut, what you can have here, what you can't have there,
and the rules. And that's why I say it's very important, because if I don't, and I know my wife would admit with me today, I believe we would have picked another cemetery to lay in, but her father was there, and when she was sick, and so the little bit that we got to talk was, I'd like to go beside my father, which, okay, well, I had no idea of the rules and regulations within cemeteries. So that's why I say pre-plan is important, because you need to pick that spot out, and you need to, so you take that burden off your family, and now you're going to save money, because when you're talking about stones, and markers, you guys, I can get it straight from you. I don't have to go through the funeral home. I can get my vault straight from you. I don't have to go through the funeral home.
No, you don't.
Because I didn't, to be honest with you, it never even.
You don't have to go to the funeral home first.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to the funeral home first. You can go to the cemetery first, take your business there, and then go to the funeral home.
Yeah, because there's so much going on at the funeral home. They're just.
There's no order. There's really no order.
But you're so you're so confused at that time, and you're street, the world is just coming in for you.
I think maybe most people probably say, okay, they start at the funeral home because that's where their loved one is right now, so they start there. But you don't have to when it comes to making your plans. You can actually make your burial plans first, and then go to the funeral home and make your plans there. But after it's all said and done, we do collaborate with each other.
You have to.
We do work together as a team to get it done. And I have to say, there's some great funeral homes out there that I've had the opportunity to work with all the time.
Right.
And so we do work together as a team, even though what we do is different.
Right. And of course, that's why I approached you guys to begin with, because I found out about all this stuff, and I just think it's important that the public understands it as well. You brought up cremation, an area for cremation. And that's what really surprised me, is the cost of cremation. And I looked and checked different funeral homes. I'm not going to throw anybody's names out there and everything, but I found cremations going from this price to this price, and I mean, there's no set thing for it and everything else. Now, you guys do cremation. But if they want that, they have to go through a funeral home?
You have to go through a licensed funeral home director to orchestrate your cremation.
Right.
So what could be your price won't be I can't quote a price. I can't do that, even though Silverbrook Cemetery does have a crematorium. We do it all the time.
Let's talk about your crematory, because
okay.
that's, you know, and if I'm going to cremate somebody too, I might want to tell the funeral home that's where I want to be cremated, because the history that goes along with that. That was the first crematory in the state of Delaware.
Yes, it was.
And pretty much, so much so that Dover Air Force Base would send to there for their cremations as well, and the astronauts were cremated there. So you know, that's you know, history. That white family, that's the extended history. You know, so that's one of those deals that, you know, and that's kind of cool. You know, if I'm going to go out that way, I want to go to there. So and I can request that from the funeral homes.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely
So
you can. And they, you know, and the thing is that, you know, a funeral home has to orchestrate that event to happen.
Right.
So their price is going to be whatever it's going to be.
Right.
You know, because you have to go through a professional
I wish I could tell the whole
get it
story.
done. But,
well, that's something to take up with the state government, you know, because those are rules.
Yeah.
Those are rules, and those are rules, and they're in place for a reason.
But you know what, when you're thinking about it, and anybody can go online and look at their state's regulations for cremation and burial and all that, and there are reasons kind of behind that as to why, because you're talking about human remains here that are being dealt with. So you know, but you know, that's another good thing about our cemeteries. It does have that history. Even in cremation, it has that history. So you know, our whole cemetery just
I think of the prettiest one. Yeah, once I got a chance to, I wish I could have toured with my wife and drove through it and everything, because that absolutely
has
gorgeous.
a lot of character. Has a lot of character to it, and you know, it's really amazing to come out there, especially in the spring and the fall when the trees are in bloom and everything. It's really a beautiful place.
I saw it in the fall, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And let's talk about location, because a lot of people, that's important to people. We keep mentioning Silverbrook. Silverbrook Cemeteries is one of the oldest cemeteries in the area, located right there on Lancaster.
Yeah.
And,
we're at 3300 Lancaster Avenue, and that's Lancaster Avenue and DuPont Road in Wilmington. And actually, we're between Lancaster Avenue and Falk Road.
Right. Yeah.
Right there.
Pricing wise, folks, all I can tell you is, do it now. You know, just pre-plan it and get out there and shop it, lock it in, because it'll amaze you if you wait until that time for it to come. It'll amaze you and shock you at the same time.
And I have to say, it's picked up. I'm happier all the time because more people are coming in. I'm finding more younger people are coming in, and they're taking the step up. You know, for other people in their family. I had a young lady come in the other day, and she said, I'm just going to take this on myself, and when other family members get ready to chip in, fine, but I'm just going to start the process. And she came in and got everything going.
I never thought about that. I could have gone to my brothers and sisters, and I could have paid for the plot and everything back home and say, okay, now you guys going to pay me this. I could have charged them more. No,
and you know what? And you know something else, one other thing is that when you pre-plan and talk about choice, is that I have families come in, the first thing they say is, I have such and such a person buried here, can I get close to them? Right. Well, when you pre-plan, your chances of getting closer to them are a lot better, particularly if there are lots around, because they go so fast that you buy one lot here, when you could have bought the second one, anybody can come in and buy the next to your mom, your dad,
I was thinking about that the other day. I thought to myself, you know, I'm going to be laying beside my wife, and my wife's laying beside her dad, so who's going to lay on the other side of me?
Whoever buys it.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I think, well, maybe I should just buy that. I put a little bench there, so you know.
And that's why it's so important to get this kind of thought out. You know, get families together and get it kind of thought out, because sometimes it's disappointing when family members find out they can't get next to somebody that they probably want to.
So. And there's nothing worse than that time.
And in that time, that's why I like to make people comfortable, and I like to make people happy with what's going on, because it's such a horrible, traumatic event as it is. So I want them to be able to have what they want out of it if I can.
I want to tell you, Miss Claudia is down there at Silverbrook. If there's not a better person. I see you deal with the public all the time, the people coming in, very sympathetic, you know, and everything. With if you're set in that situation where it just happened, you don't pre-plan, great young lady to work with you and guide you through this. Contact her. You can call her versus the funeral home if you'd like to get things started, because you do all that. We're going to come back and talk about other things next show, but Lottie, we're out of time. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
And,
pleasure to be here.
So give her a call. Silverbrook Cemetery is right there on Lancaster. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.